Hello, everybody. Welcome to Courageous Conversations. I'm here with the incomparable Gina Hatzis. Is that how I say your last name?
Yes, you
Hatzis,
nailed it.
Exactly.
Loved
beautiful,
it.
Beautiful. I mean, can you imagine us two women to here together talking about courage and courageous conversations? I'm so excited you're here.
Me too.
It's like it's a hair day, people.
Yes. We need the fan blowing this way so we can be Beyonce-fied.
I know. Well, you know, we don't want it. We don't want it ruining our hair, but I wanted to say to everybody, once you come on, please share and welcome to Courageous Conversations. This is a really an awesome experience. I'm going to do some sharing right now. I'm going to share it on, let's see. First, I'm going to share it on a variety of my pages, including the Courageous Conversation page. And, you know, once you come on, share as well and say hi and ask some questions of both of us because we have
Facebook.
a lot of information. Gina, take over for a minute while I share.
Well, I'm so excited. I just drove down to the city. Thank you for having me here.
Thanks for driving.
From north of the city, coming down to the city.
Wow.
And it's so beautiful to be in the city on a gorgeous summer day.
It's nice and steamy.
It's steamy because we're going to have a hot conversation about courage.
Exactly. The weather's steamy, we're steamy, and our conversation will be steamy.
That's it. So stick around because this is going to be hot. It's going to be hot and steamy.
Gina, talk to me a little bit about your courage. Like, courage for you seems like something you've been working on cultivating, really on a personal level, professional level. What would you say that the viewers want to know a little bit about you and your journey with courage, would you say?
Hey, Rick.
Hey, Rick. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a big juicy one to
start
open
right off
with.
the bat. Yes, exactly. I like putting people a little bit courageously on
Throw
the
me
spot.
a curveball, why don't you?
Tell us about, firstly, what would be one of the first acts of courage that you actually sort of activated in your life, would you say?
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, they're all big ones.
Yeah, they're all big ones.
Yeah.
You know what? I think for me, it wasn't intentional. It started off not intentionally.
Okay, like out of necessity, sort of thing.
Yeah. So the first one that comes to mind was I landed my dream job as a journalist right out of the gate. I hadn't even graduated from university at CB24.
Ooh.
At the time, there was a year's waiting list just to volunteer to answer the phones at the front desk.
Wow.
And by the grace of God, all the stars aligned, I landed what I thought was my dream job. And we had a party at my house like it was 1999. Like I had won an Academy Award. I mean, everybody was invited to this party because I had landed the dream job.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe half of you were there because my mother invited everyone.
And it's not easy to get these jobs in media.
It's not easy to get these jobs. And, you know, I thought, here I am. I'm living the dream. And what happened was I started working. And probably within, if I'm honest, probably within the first couple of days, I knew that it wasn't where I needed to be. And I knew it wasn't the energy that I was intended to put out into the world. I knew it didn't align. And you know when you have that knowing, when you're in a space or you're in a job or you're in a relationship and you have that knowing and that voice says, girl. And, but of course we had this big party. I mean, logically it made perfect sense to be there.
Yeah.
And so I tucked all of that away and I stayed.
For how long?
I stayed initially for 8 months. And of course whatever you repress expresses. So I started to have all of these physical symptoms come up. Headaches, rash, hives, backache. Because my body was just telling me, get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
It just felt like it was incongruent with the energy that I wanted to show up with. I felt like the Grim Reaper every day. And finally at one point, I was sitting in my car. It was a Tuesday. I did the 6 o'clock news. Sitting in my car just before my shift. And this sweat just came over me. And I thought I was going to throw up just from the stress of not wanting to go into work. And I said, I can't do it. I'm done. I went in and I quit my job.
Wow.
And
Courage, baby.
Well, it was courage, but I floated out of that Queen Street building. I floated out of there.
Yeah.
You know when you do something that feels really good.
Yeah.
Then I went home and told my mother.
She wasn't too happy.
I needed smelling salts to revive her. But here's the thing.
Wow.
Then everybody came out of the woodwork to tell me what a big mistake I had made. Right? And I was young in my 20s, early 20s. And I believed them. And I questioned myself. So then I did the unthinkable. and I put my tail between my legs, and I went back to Clint Nickerson, the producer of the 6 o'clock news, and I begged him for my job back.
Whoa.
And unthinkably, he gave it to me. And then the real work began, because then I had to prove I was worthy of a job I didn't even want.
Oh my gosh.
And so the courage for me...
What self-doubt will do, eh?
What self-doubt will do.
What self-doubt will do.
But the reason I share that story is it was such a huge pivotal moment in my life where I realized my intuitive knowing was bang on. I questioned it. I listened to everybody else. I suffered through it. Then I finally listened to it, felt the relief of that and the peace of that, only to second guess myself again and go back into it.
Wow.
And so courage for me was
because
being
logically
really
it
clear.
said, you need to stay, right? Yeah.
Well, everybody was like, are you crazy? You got a paying job in the newsroom, no experience.
Yeah.
So, I think it's, for me, courage began with the awareness that being true to myself is probably the ultimate courageous act.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to do.
Being true to yourself is, because there's a lot of naysayers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who are like, don't listen to that inner voice.
Yeah.
Don't have the loudest voice in your head be yours. Which is why I'm all about the self culture, which is having the loudest voice in your head be yours.
Love it. Yeah.
And it sounds to me like you also, because your speech, Too Much Woman, it's such a great speech.
Thank you.
It's so about owning you as a human being, as a woman, and a lot of people are going to say, as I feel the same, that you're just too much. You're just too much. And, squash yourself.
Yeah.
Be less so I don't feel bad.
Yeah.
Be less so I don't feel bad. Tell me a little bit about, or speak a little bit about that.
I think it's really interesting because I think two things are going on. We live in a culture where people are saying, be true to yourself, be authentic, love yourself, love your body, listen to that voice. And we say all these beautiful things, but we don't really mean it. Because once someone does stand authentically or goes against the grain, doesn't get married, doesn't have the children, doesn't do the job, doesn't stay in the job, stays in the marriage instead of... When we do all of those things and we go against the grain, then we're reprimanded for it. And so I think we don't culturally support anyone being courageous, right? And
That's so interesting. So it's like a hypocritical messaging.
It is. I mean, it sounds so beautiful to say, be courageous, people, love yourself, follow your truth. And at the end of the day, it's really hard to find the support externally. And so no wonder we are putting our tail between our legs and having a really hard time living courageous lives when it's not being supported. So for me, the Too Much Woman experience, the talk that I gave, was really just an experiment. It was telling the truth about my life. And when it went viral,
so amazing.
What it showed me is that people really resonate with wanting to show up fully as they are and not having the audacity, the courage to do it. And so that was a huge wake-up call for me. Yeah. Huge.
But yet it paid off. I mean, it's like, I love it when a video goes viral.
Yeah.
It's like, it's such a good thing because people really, really, they resonated with that. I know so many people who resonated with that.
So funny to tell you that I thought it was a very personal journey, and I was, I did it in a speech competition just for fun because I am a speaker and I speak for a living, but I've never told that story. And then for like 48 hours later, I was bombarded with messages. It's called the Too Much Woman. And here I have men, older women, younger women, women who I would never identify as too much women, people coming out of the woodwork sharing their stories.
Yeah.
So,
and incredible opportunity, in my opinion, to show people that you can be too much, in many people's opinions, and still be successful. It's one thing I think that a lot of people get afraid is that if they are too much, they will fail. But this is an example of being yourself. Hi, Amy. Nice to see you. And hi, Rick. And do share this video so other people can hear about this journey. But to me, it's really nice to hear when someone puts it out there and then experiences some success at it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's inspirational. I really, really do.
The truth of the story for me was that being too much had repercussions. So being too much, too sensitive.
What was your repercussion? Too sensitive?
I got beat up in high school. I was abused for being, too vivacious, too out there. I was reprimanded in my talks. I had, men pull me aside getting the wrong message. I mean, all the stories about the backlash of the Too Much Woman, and deciding I would still choose to stand in my truth, and I'm not going to tuck that away because there are repercussions for that too.
So one of the toolboxes for being able to cultivate courage, would you say, based on what you just said, because we biologically are predisposed to wanting to belong, to wanting to be part of a group. So I feel like part of our journey is to want less of that. to find your tribe, to go on the journey to find the people that resonate with you, but that you don't need to belong everywhere, and you don't need to be liked by everyone, and you don't need to be, and what do you think about that? That's my opinion. What do you think?
No, I think what's so important, one of the attributes I think of living a courageous life is finding a tribe that is supportive. I think it's
and
not,
that's hard.
It's not fair. We also want to show up authentically, and we want to, Brené Brown teaches us to be vulnerable, and to be out there. I spent the first half of my career, I've been speaking for 23 years, the first half easily, or 3/4, hiding behind the veil of perfectionism. Putting myself out there as the expert who knows it all, gets it all right. Look at me, perfect family, perfect. But what that does, and I think, we're a culture that's obsessed with superheroes and heroism and heroines and people who are out there doing really big, courageous things. And I think that's really exciting. But at the end of the day, I think that can have the opposite effect, because we see people doing these big, courageous things and we think, oh my God, I am so far from that. That is so far from my reality. I can't jump off, tall buildings. I can't, go for my dreams. I can't. So I think really what it comes down to is finding a tribe of accountability where you can be accountable to even a small select group of people who inspire you to do courageous things as well. It's the small acts of courage. Recently we had a tragedy here in Toronto a couple days ago, and there was a shooting. For those of you who aren't in the general Toronto area.
Hi Celia, welcome. I'm so happy you're
Celia.
here. Thank you.
Yeah, and so I think when something like that happens, it's a great example of the response to that is people want to hibernate. We want to go home. We want to lock our doors. We want to close the blinds, and we want to hide. And courage is all about connection. Courage is coming out and touching one another and finding people that we can feel safe in this space with. And so it's those small acts of courage.
I liked your live the other day on Stop the Fear Mongering.
Yeah.
Hi Patty, nice to see you. Stop the fear mongering, because a lot of the CP24 is replaying the scary.
Yeah.
And then people are like, but I love that people are going out there and having ice cream on the same exact patio that all this went down, and going to Dimitri's and going to Medzi's and going to Christina's and going to Seven Numbers and courageously, because a lot of, to be honest with you, as a psychotherapist, I work with a lot of people with anxiety, right? And people were just past couple of days has been like anxiety plus, and the fear story, and the overprotection story, the massive protection story. And gotta say, a small act of courage is go on the subway, go to the Danforth, enjoy a coffee there.
A small act of courage is going next door to your neighbor and saying, how you doing? Want to come over for coffee?
Yeah, making connections.
Making connections. I mean, it doesn't. I think that we're under this impression that and you have some really awesome, courageous people on your show, and we love reading the stories about the people who overcome.
You're one of them, by the way. You're one of the awesome, amazing people.
But the thing is, if you were to ask me the most courageous thing that I've done, and I could rhyme off a whole bunch of really impressive oohs and ahs. But for me, it's the day-to-day showing up in my vulnerability that is the most courageous thing, because that is the scariest.
Not posturing.
It's not jumping off the tall buildings. It's not doing all these crazy things. People will say to me, I think it's so amazing that you speak for a living. That's my number one fear. Or that you travel around the world by yourself, and I'd love to travel by myself. It seems so far for them, but for me, it's like, let's break it down. If that's a huge goal for you and that is so scary for you, let's break it down. What would it look like for you to speak and tell your truth? Let's break it down into small. I think it's the small, consistent acts.
Okay, so
and that's how we live a courageous life.
That's something to note. Small, consistent acts. And work with intention. Work with intention.
Yeah. My favorite quote, one of my favorites, I'm a quote monger. So one of my favorites is by the amazing Dr. Maya Angelou, who says that courage is the most important virtue, because without it you can't practice any other virtues consistently. You can't love without courage. You can't risk without courage. You can't live with integrity without courage. You can't care without courage. You can't do anything without courage. And so at the end of the day, cultivating courage is probably the biggest bang for your buck.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of the way I look at it is we're all on this trajectory. Like everyone watching, you're on this trajectory. And if nothing changes in your life and you just stay on the slow and steady, the comfort zone, you're going to take this journey and you're going to end up somewhere. But if right now...
Hi, Angie.
Hi, Angie. If Patty, if everyone watching takes one small, minuscule act of courage and you do it consistently, every day you do some small act of courage. If you want to write a book, every day you write for 20 minutes, whatever act of courage that means to you, all of a sudden you've moved 1 degree, you've shifted 1 degree, and it doesn't seem perceptible in the beginning, but over time you end up in a completely different place. So consistent acts of courage, little ones.
Those are the neural pathways. Our brain is an elegant machine that will support our change. If you do something consistently, repetitively, you will have new neural pathways that will support that new belief, that new behavior, that new way of doing things.
Absolutely.
And then what you have is a sort of a concurrent experience of the physical, the emotional, the mental, and also the neural, which is so powerful.
Nobody wakes up and does this huge courageous thing. I mean, it's very rare. And if they do, kudos to them, but that's not the norm. How do we cultivate courage? It's by doing something small. It's like if you haven't been courageous, it's like your arms in a sling. Like, I don't know if you've ever broken a part of your body, knock on wood, but your arm's in a sling. And if you haven't been courageous and you start to be courageous, it's like that muscle is like,
it has to be built.
So these small acts of courage build up the tenacity, builds up the resilience, and that cultivates more courage. It's like courage begets courage. So all these little steps, we start to build on one another.
I love that. Courage begets courage.
It does. And so if I really wanted to do this big thing, if I want to write the book, so I'm writing my first solo book, and it's a scary thing to write a book. Who am I to write a book? I know 87% of people want to write a book. That's
really?
Like a huge
87%?
87% of people want to write a book. But people are like, who am I to write a book? I don't know where to start. And so it's a big, audacious goal. And it is scary. How do I cultivate courage for that? Well, I break it down, and I take it day by day. What can I do today? Well, today I can write 20 minutes. Every day I can just write something for 20 minutes.
Perfect.
And as I start to write, maybe I'm going to share it with a friend, a trusted friend, get some feedback. That might be my second act of courage. And I'm consistently going to do that. And then maybe ultimately, I might even get a writing coach to look at my work and give me some feedback. And then I might actually join a writing group and these are the consistent, small, courageous steps. And then ultimately, there you are with a book published. I mean, that's how it works.
I would say, by the way, anyone who's watching, welcome. I'm so glad you're here at Courageous Conversations.
Hi, Bernadette. Hi, Angie.
Couple things I wanted just to mention to everyone who's watching. If you could share this live with your people, with your page, we would be so appreciative, because these are really, really free, valuable nuggets of gold being given to you. And also, join my group, Courageous Conversations. It's a place of really sharing your courage acts and being supported. And that's something I just wanted to mention. Yeah. But one of the things that what we're talking about is cultivating courage and courageousness within and developing those neural pathways. I would also say that you got to really discipline your inner running commentary. Discipline that inner running commentary to not be so, self-loathing, negative, doubting, because doubt is the master destroyer. Yeah. Self-doubt is the master. Everything else can be there. But if you cultivate doubt, that's the one that's going to really tear it apart. Yeah. And I just want to say, I love this consistent acts of courage. Yeah. Courage begets courage. Small acts. They don't have to be massive.
It's so big what you've just said, because at the end of the day, when our research, and I'm a bit
Thank you, Angie. Share it to your page. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Angie. I think one of the biggest things that I've learned for myself is that 90% of our day is run by habit. That means 90% of what you do and what you think today is the same as what you've done and thought about yesterday, and the same as. And so how do we make any shift or any transition or any change in our life? It's by doing these consistent habits, these small little habits that are doable and duplicatable. Yes. And that's where the shift comes in. That's where the neural pathways, we start to create this groove. And so when the self-doubt comes in, it's like, well, I have this habit. of writing for 20 minutes every day. And so now that it's become habitual, the self-doubt can come in, but it's a habit for me.
That's right.
And so I'm going to stick with it. So
the habit combats the doubt.
It does.
So, I wake up and I meditate and I write a little bit in my journal and I will contemplate. And then those thoughts will come in, but because I've got this relationship with myself, those thoughts don't hold a candle to the relationship I have with me. And that's what it is. It's really, really, really cultivating a relationship with yourself in a habitual way so that these repetitive acts can be supported by your brain. And then before you know it, you have a major sort of courageous experience, whatever that may be.
I think what you say is so critical because you talk about that little voice of self-doubt. And what I do is I've cultivated a relationship with this self-doubt or my fear.
You've had, good stuff.
I have,
Let's
because
hear
you know
it.
what? It's funny because it used to be really heavy. It used to be like, what are you doing? Why are you sabotaging me? This self-sabotage. But the more I resisted it, the bigger it became.
Right.
Whatever you resist persists.
Good job.
So I said, I'm going to have a little fun with this. And so I imagine her, this little inner critic, as this little person. She's really cute. I kind of put her in the palm of my hand. And when she comes up, I kind of look at her and I keep it light and I say to her, hey, baby, I know why you're here. I know you're here to protect me, to make me feel safe. I get it. Hey, guess what? Take a little break. It's nap time. Go take a nap. I've got some stuff to do. You can come back later, but right now, go take a little nap. I know why you're here, and I acknowledge you. I appreciate you for wanting to be here, but I got stuff I got to do. Like, I'm writing this book for the next 20 minutes. Come check with me after. And so I distance myself from the voice because the voice is not me. The voice is not you. The voice is there. It's there to protect you.
And you know what you're engaging in when you do that? Dynamic brain retraining.
Well, that's what I'm doing.
That's what you're actually doing because you're having cheers. You're actually having a moment with water. You're having a moment with your self-doubt and you're not vilifying it.
Yes.
You're not. So that's another part of the toolbox to develop courage. Don't vilify your self-doubt, your bully, your inner bully. Make friends with it.
Yeah, I think
find a reason why they're there.
It's
Understand
so
why they keep showing up over and over.
Yeah.
Hi, Nestor from Barcelona.
Hola.
Hola.
¿Cómo
Todo bien.
estás? ¿Cómo estás?
Everyone lodges into their Spanish. I'm so glad you're here.
I think the habit when we talk about courage and fear is to vilify it, is to make it the bad guy.
Right.
It's like feel the fear and push through it and be fearless. That's BS. That is not going to serve you in any way because fear is going to come up.
Absolutely.
It's part of our human nature and it's there to serve us. So if we can look at it and say, fear, I know why you're here. Thank you for being here.
That's great.
I appreciate you. I know you're here because you think that you're protecting me, but guess what? I need you to go on a little hiatus for like half an hour while I do this thing that's really important to me and check in.
And don't work so hard, doubt and fear.
Yeah.
Because you're working too hard. Go play. You're actually a part of me that needs to go
have a
play.
drink on me. Go take a break.
Take a break so I can take over.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to be doing that. Now, when you grew up, were you in a family that, that's a real personal question, but I talk about family culture.
Yes.
Family culture.
Yeah.
And your mom obviously tremendously supportive of you and in many ways.
Yes.
But did you come up in a family that was fear-based or or did you have to cultivate that all on your own? How did that come about?
Yeah, that's a really great question.
For me, it was I had to come up with a lot of the courage from my own being and also work sort of counter to some of the family culture that I learned.
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I mean, my mother was a single parent for a long time,
Right.
and I watched the courage that it took for her to go back to work, to be a single parent, and all that. And I also have seen, a lot of actions that were fear-based. Like the underlying response was fear.
Yeah.
The fear mongering, and you're not safe, and stay home, and don't go to New York City and pursue your dream because. I think a little bit of both, but I think more than that, what happened to me is I started to look at my ancestry. I think in my early 20s, I started to get really curious about the stories of my ancestors.
And they're courageous, I bet.
They're courageous. And their opportunities to be courageous. And I felt this responsibility to dive into the opportunities that they didn't have, and to live my life in a way that would honor not only their courage, but the ways that they had no choice. You know, grandparents, grandmothers who had no choice.
Yeah.
And so I really feel for me, when we talk about legacy, for me it's about feeling the ancestral bloodlines in my body, giving me courage. They're rooting me in courage, because I want to live honorably for them. Does that make sense?
And it does. And let's face it, I mean, my dad came from World War II, and he walked from Romania to France. And my mom, you know, emigrated from Portugal, and is you know, very courageous in many things. To be an immigrant generally, I think, is a very courageous thing in North America. It's a very tough thing, no matter when that was, whether it was the 40s, the 50s, or today. And probably today it's even harder. But it was always hard. It was always hard. So and probably a lot of those acts of courage caused a lot of them to then go, no, be safe. Don't risk so much. I risk so much. So there's this sort of, you know, almost boomerang effect or ricochet effect from all of that courage.
Yeah.
I talk about don't scare yourself. In other words, you talk about the really small acts, I think, are a way to continue moving forward without freaking yourself out.
Yes.
I think that is, you know, the nervous system needs to be tended to. And when you're dealing with your nervous system, you know, active courage, self-love. Active courage, self-soothe. Active courage, gentle touch, gentle talk.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think we don't have, I think there's this idea that we have to like be bold and courageous all the time in all ways. And, you know, I think it's really important to have that soft space of self-nurturing and self-compassion. So, you know, today, I don't feel like being courageous. I am going to sit in the bath, and I'm not going to put myself out there, and I'm going to self-nurture because that's what feels good to me. And I think it's important to give ourselves permission and one another permission. We're like, rah, for the courageous person, but nobody says, hey, girl, take a day for yourself.
So another part of the toolbox of cultivating courage would be honor the need to retreat sometimes and self-nurture so that you can gather your strength, gather your being, so you can go out there again. It's not just a one-way street. It's both.
Absolutely.
It's constant self-care while going out there, and also trying new things when you're out there, so that your being can get used to, your neural pathways can get used to, let's do something different.
And part of this, I just want to add, part of the self-care of that reflective time when you're a little bit in that self-compassionate state, part of that is celebrating the courageous acts. Like we
celebrate your wins,
right?
celebrate your
courage. Like we never do that. It's almost like, here's the marker. It's this, we're chasing this never-ending target, and we get that, or we achieve it, or we do. Yes, celebrate. I started going to the gym. Yes, I've been writing for a week straight. Yes, I've told my truth. Yes, I went on stage. Whatever it is, but then the target moves again, and we don't ever celebrate it. So no wonder we're like, you know, it's so huge. So giving ourselves, and this goes back to the beginning of our conversation, finding a tribe. A tribe can be one person. A tribe can be your group, your courageous group. Finding someone else who's going to hold you, hold space for you to celebrate your wins, celebrate the courage, because that reinforces your neural pathways. It reinforces your actions so that you can get back out there.
Thank you, Angie, from London, UK. We have international people in the house. And I feel moved to tears when you talk about the notion of celebrating your wins.
I got chills.
Yeah, because it's so. I feel that sometimes we're go, and we forget the celebration of the self and the celebration of the small wins. And I got to tell you, the small wins are where all the gold mines are. It's the small wins. Yeah. The big wins are a sort of a culmination of all the wins. But I have to say, thank you, Angie, for celebrating the small wins.
Awesome.
And tell us what your win was, Angie, so that today I celebrated my win. Good. I want to know what your win was.
Yes.
And if everyone wants to post what their win was, we will celebrate it for you.
Let's celebrate your courage. I think one of the kindest things that we can do for one another is to actually take moments where we're giving each other the opportunity to share our wins. You know, we come from this culture where we have to be, we have to tone it down, and we don't want to talk too much about, sit with someone and actually give them the space and say, so tell me about what you've celebrate. Let's celebrate you. What have you done in the past? And give someone space to actually reflect on that. What are you celebrating about yourself? Because we live in a culture that doesn't allow us the bragging rights to celebrate where we've been, because, that's not what a nice lady does. That's not polite.
And politeness, kindness is important. Politeness maybe not as much, but kindness is really important. And politeness is important, let's face it. I feel politeness is gentleness is important, but I think that sometimes...
Well, humility kind of overrides our natural instinct to want to celebrate. It's like we have a win, and then like in my bedroom, I'm like, yeah. Right. But, I would never call and say, guess what, people, look what I did. I mean, we have to like tone it down. So it's such an act of kindness to say, let me see you in your glory. Let me stand and witness you
by you
in your glory. Yeah, and share with me your win, and give someone space to be there, because we're so rarely in that space, and that cultivates courage.
Angie says, I managed to walk down the road without my crutches.
Go, girl!
That must have been... That's tough. Wow. That is tough. That is good for you. I'm really, really pleased. And also, I'm just so pleased at all the people commenting with us right now, because it sounds to me like what you are sharing with us is your innards, and we really, really, really appreciate that. What I want to ask you right now is, where can people find you? Tell me, you've got some interesting projects out there. Celia says, deciding to walk my talk, and as much as I love inspiring others, I need to step away and work on my own self-care, walking my talk. I want to say yes, Celia.
This is the biggest
beautiful
thing.
Celia,
yeah, congratulations. And you know what? A lot of people talk about that, but actually doing it takes great courage, because one of my favorite Georgia O'Keeffe quotes says, you can be the juiciest, ripest peach, and there's going to be somebody who doesn't like peaches. And so, right? And so we're not there to please everyone. Us recovering people pleasers, we want everybody to like us, and that's a natural instinct. Back to finding your tribe. A tribe can be one person. It could be that group. But you can find... also, my tribe is Project Passion on Facebook.
Oh, tell us a little bit about Project Passion.
Yeah, so it's a space. I really just wanted a space where we can be honest. And like I said, the first half of my career, I was hiding behind the veil of perfection. And what that did was there were missed opportunities to go deeper in relationship and really show up. Angie aligned with a company with the National Autistic Society to help the charity raise awareness. So
very nice, Angie.
Look at that. Good for you.
Work.
Good for
As you get there with the courageous acts, incredible. The planet is really going to benefit.
Yeah, I'd love to know what people would really love to cultivate courage to do. Like, I'd love to know what it is. Like, when I ask people what's the most courageous thing you've ever done, my Facebook feed gets flooded. And so rarely do we sit in that space of celebrating that.
What's the most courageous thing you've ever done? It's a hard question, isn't it?
It's a hard question, because instinctively what I think of is, I birthed my children naturally at home.
That's courageous.
Walked away from... There's all that stuff, but you know what the truth is? Really, really, really the truth is every day getting up and being willing to be vulnerable and honest. It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to do. That's probably the biggest thing. I mean, when I'm writing my a book right now, and it's tempting to want to show all these markers of success, and here's how I overcame, and here are all the great things that I did. But at the end of the day, it's getting up every day, and the most courageous act is being willing to look at the world and say, it's a beautiful place, despite what's going on in the world, despite what's going on in my family, despite the shootings, it's a beautiful place. That's courage. For me, that's courage.
I think that's brilliant. That's just brilliant.
Yeah.
I would say one of my more courageous acts would be that sharing on these lives is very courageous for me.
It is.
It's so courageous,
girl.
For me.
It is.
And exactly. And walking a very, very unique path in my career also. Yes. I literally carved a very, very unique path as a holistic psychotherapist. I might as well, I joke, because I might as well have had a machete in my hand carving a path on a jungle that had no path, because there were not a lot of people 20 years ago doing what I do. Yeah. But I would say that the biggest one, is I concur with you, is staying positive in the face of a tremendous amount of evidence of negativity and fear mongering.
Yeah.
So staying positive no matter what, or staying staying at least optimistic.
Yeah.
Maybe not positive, but optimistic that things will get better, things are going to improve.
Albert Einstein has said, and I don't know if he said it, but they say that he said that the most important question to ask yourself is the world a friendly or dangerous place? And I think the people that dare to look at the world and see it as a friendly place, that's probably the most courageous. That's the most courageous thing, because then that sets the tone for our day. So everywhere we go, we're looking for kindness and connection, and that changes. That's a game changer.
And what you focus on expands. If you're focusing in on kindness and optimism and positivity, you're going to more likely find, people and places and experiences to mirror that.
Yeah.
So what does Angie say? I agree. Every day I try and help at least one person to see how wonderful they are, and showing them something good about them. And that's beautiful.
Those are the game changers, because that creates a ripple. So everybody you do that to is going to feel compelled to do it to somebody else. And the science shows there's about 7 degrees that your ripple touches. 7 degrees. And so, Angie, every person that you intentionally look at in the eye and give them some sort of affirmation, some sort of love, some sort of confirmation of their worthiness, it's going to ripple out to 7 other people. And think about that. That's huge.
Massive.
That's how we change the world. That's how we change the world. That's courageous.
That is
good
so
on
courageous.
you.
Yeah.
Good on you.
Tell us again about your website and your Project Passion. I want to hear it.
GinaHatzis.com. I have a new podcast launching in a couple of weeks. It's called Spiritual Gspot. If you dare to go there.
I love that title.
Yes. So that's coming.
Spiritual Gspot. Where do we find that?
Yeah, GinaHatzis.com. So that's coming soon.
Yes.
And if you're on Facebook, just hop over to Project Passion. My name's Gina Hatzis, and that's where you can begin to find all my work and all my groups, and follow me. My book's coming out. So thank you.
Do you have a title yet, or is that not to be revealed?
I do. Well, it's Finding My Spiritual G-Spot. It's the journey of a too much woman, and so it's really about, for me, and it relates to this conversation. It's really about, I think we come to a point in our lives where we have all these slices of a spirit, all these slices of a person, and it's about pulling them all together and daring to live that whole truth of who you are. That's really what my journey and my book is about. So I thank you for having this space and sharing this space with you.
And it's, we're going to be proliferating this widely because it's so valuable. And I just want to, number one, I want to thank you for being here and making the journey here, because number one, you're a very special energy, and I love that you've come here to share with tons of people about who you are and what your journey is and how to cultivate courage. And man, do I appreciate you and appreciate this so much.
Thank you.
So much. And the other thing I just want to say, all of this stuff that we're talking about, this heals. This heals you, this heals others, and more importantly, this heals the planet, which is in grave need of our healing. So if you work on you, if you cultivate your own courage, I promise you that the ripple effect will help and cultivate courage in others, and then the planet will benefit.
Yes.
So, GinaHatzis.com.
Yes.
That's right. Project Passion. Cultivate your spiritual G-spot.
Yes.
Is that all the right words? Good. Come over to visualizationworks.com, which is my website, because visualization does work. Please join my group, Courageous Conversations, because I want to hear from you, and everyone there wants to hear from you. And let's make this a tribe, or it is a tribe. Let's continue this tribe of people that are supporting people that are courageously operating on the planet in ways that are helping the planet. So please do that.
And if I might ask,
please
if I might just ask, because what I want to do is, when I go back to Facebook, what I'm really interested in is, if you're watching this, I'd love you to share in the comments the most courageous thing that you've done, or maybe not the most, but one of the courageous things that you've done, because when you share it, not only are you creating the neural pathways, not only are you reflecting and cultivating your own courage, but you really are inspiring other people to see what is possible for them. So I'd love, and I will personally comment, and I really want to have a conversation with people, and I want to know what is the most, or what is one courageous act that you're really proud of. Share it with us. We want to celebrate you.
We want to celebrate you. And I just want you to know that no matter what's happening on the planet, you can cultivate a sense of optimism and positivity, and in that you will cultivate your courage. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I want you to love yourself, love the person next to you, and let's keep having courageous conversations. I'll be coming at you tomorrow again with another courageous conversation.
Woohoo!
Thank you again, Gina.
Yeah, love fest.
Yeah,
love the person next to you.
And,
bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye for now. I'm coming out. There we go.